back to At Home with Elisa. Today we are down, obviously clearly we're near the chickens, but we're down working in our garden today. We're trying to do some flood remediation work. We have an area of our vegetable garden and cutting garden that actually floods when we get heavy rain. We're currently on, I think we're expecting the third round of La Nina to start in about a month or so, and we know that the garden will flood out, so we're trying to put things in place now so that hopefully we don't lose the garden. And also I think in the next month or so we'll be doing some work to the chicken coop as well, so that they're a little bit safer this time around. Okay, so we're just out in the garden at the moment. My husband Trent's just setting up for us. We're hoping to do a raised garden bed in an effort to basically slow the water. So where I'm standing is a little bit uphill, and it comes all the way across our block, and it actually floods the garden bed just on the other side of the fence here, and the rose garden bed, and it actually has done over there underneath that gate as well. So we're basically just trying to slow water. About a metre from that fence line that I have there, we've actually got some sunken irrigation pipes which divert water away. So there's a slight trench, I'll show you. So I don't know if you can actually see that, but there's a slight trench that goes all the way along about a metre out from the fence line, and that actually has the pipes that drain water away. So that's our plan, is to try and stop the water before it can get into the garden, before it can get into here and wash all that away. We're going to try and slow it with one of these sleepers. So just like we've done in our other garden area, we've got the raised garden beds. This will be a raised garden bed as well. It seems to work well, being the lowest point in our property. And we have these sleepers here, which we've I basically buy them in bulk and I start painting them. So we've got them, they're about 20 centimetres high, so I'll convert that to inches as well. But they're about 20 centimetres high, and we're hoping that that's enough to stop some of the flash flooding. This will be our first step in preparing our garden for more flooding. Generally we wouldn't have to worry about this, we're usually more in drought. However, we are about to expect our third round of La Nina, and judging from the last lot, we know what is to be expected, and we know that we're going to flood here. So if we can try and make some preparation for it now, hopefully it won't be as damaging as it has been previously. And just to show you the slope of the land, so I'm looking up from that garden bed that we're about to construct, and you can see how steep it actually is. It does have quite a bit of fall. Now as the water comes across the land, it picks up a lot of speed. Right along the fence line there, you can see the brown posts, and there's like some rocks. There's a large ditch all the way along our fence line. We actually have someone coming very shortly to dig that out and make it deeper, because it did overflow. We got so much water that it actually overflowed. So we're looking to dig it a lot deeper, and then that way we shouldn't have to worry so much about water overflowing from next door's property. It'll just be what falls on our land that comes down here. And just as an example, that swimming pool that you can see up there, that was actually filled up. It's 19,000 litres, and that was filled up with excess rainfall that we received in our water tank just in the last, it was a 7-day storm, and that's how much we received, 19,000 litres of water. Okay, so Trent's just putting the framework together here of what we're looking at doing. As I said, it'll be less than a metre wide, and continue the whole width of the front of the garden, just again in an effort to try and stop any flooding into the garden. We're using H4 sleepers, which is what we've actually used in the rest of our raised garden beds in here. I'm not as concerned, they are treated sleepers, but I'm not as concerned. It's new timber, it's not old timber, which can contain carcinogenics. This garden itself won't actually have any herbs or any food crops in them, because it is on the outside of the fence and we do have wallaby pressure. So I'm probably going to be looking at doing gardenias and lavender in this garden alone, but that obviously won't be for a little while yet, until we get it built and till we get it filled up. So those sleepers that we are using are 2.4 metres in length. They're 20 centimetres high, and I was just chatting with Trent, and he uses bugle screws to screw them together. Generally I like to do a lot of the stuff in the garden myself. However, with these you have to use certain tools, and they're a little bit hard on the wrist, so Trent prefers for him to do them. So we try and aim to do something every now and then that he's able to get down and help in the garden that's, you know, a little bit more physical, and he can help me do it. Look at him go. Anyway, I should probably help him. So we just realised that some of the wood's actually twisted because it's been sitting outside for a while, not actually screwed into place. So we're just checking measurements as we go along and just making sure that we drill and screw everything in so it's nice and tight. Okay, so we're just hitting the home straight now, which is fantastic because the weather has taken a little bit of a change. You might be wondering why we were actually building a in-ground garden bed in front of a fence, a garden fence and a garden gate. The reason being is that the garden gate actually isn't functional anymore. So we put the garden gate here thinking that it would be fantastic access into the garden. Unfortunately, we built the two raised in-ground garden beds first, which basically means now that the fence is, or the gate is null and void because it doesn't open inwards enough to get anything in. So we do just use the little entry gate and that's it. So that's the reason why we're actually building this garden bed in front of the gate. So there you go, we're not completely crazy. We have encountered that we're working with quite a bit of wood that is it bowed, darling? Bowed, so it's actually got bends in it and twisted, which is making things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more challenging for us, but all in all, it's just to stop water flooding through. So we'll just continue on with it. We're nearly finished. guys, so we have just finished the garden bed. I obviously will still need to add in some layers of newspaper and some mulch, and I obviously also will need to touch up some paint. So there's one piece of wood that hadn't been painted, but the rest of it will definitely need some touch-ups as well. So let's have a look. So this is it from the distance view. What we tried to do was, it's very hard because the ground is so unlevel, it's really weird. So we tried to make sure that it was level from the front of the garden to the back of the garden, so that that was completely level, and that obviously means then that we will have some gaps along here at the very back of the garden bed, just because of the slope of the land. But what we're going to do is I'm going to fill it. I've got some large sheeting of newspaper and also cardboard, so I'm going to fill that in, and then I'm going to fill it up about halfway up the planks of wood. I'm going to fill it up with just mulch, just in an effort to actually add in some drainage and also obviously help suppress the weeds that are in there before I actually get a soil delivery and plant it out. But all in all, I'm really happy with it. I'm very hopeful that hopefully we don't have any more flooding, but if we do have more flooding, this section just here, as you can see, there's only one little gap there, but this section quite here is where it floods most of the time. So if that's nice and close to the ground and I've got nice volume on the inside of the garden bed, hopefully that will mean that the water won't be able to go in there and wash away everything that's inside the actual garden itself. As for inside the garden, obviously this is that plank of wood that I was mentioning that needs to be painted and topping up on the inside there. But I had actually planned to expand this garden bed here. I was going to expand it all the way along the fence, and I wanted to use this fencing, or the gate, to be an actual like support for things like I don't know, just watermelon. You can tie watermelon up, rock melon, just different sorts of vining crops that can climb up. So that's my plans with that, and just expand that garden bed all the way along right up to where the gate starts here. And then the planter box that we just actually built, that will have the gardenias and lavender in it. You can get a good idea of the slope of the land there. What installing this actual garden bed has done is it's allowed me, obviously I'll be able to staple this fencing material to the back of that garden bed and just obviously kill all those weeds, pull them all out, and just build up this garden bed a little bit. So this was the one that was definitely the worst hit by the flooding that we had. I planted 70 ranunculus in this garden bed, and I think I have 6 or 7 that have come up. So the rest of them were actually washed away with the floods. And I really want to be able to backfill. So when I get the soil delivery for the actual box that we've just made, I'm going to add some extra in and build this garden bed up nicely. So I obviously will have a little bit more room to play with heights, so I'll be able to add a little bit more soil in, which should mean hopefully some better crops and fingers crossed no flooding. So thank you so much for joining me today. That is the way that we've constructed all of our garden beds. Generally we don't have to work with leveling as much. It is on a slope, this garden is on a slope, but we generally don't have to worry about the levels as much as what we did today. So it was definitely a long project. I'll edit it and it'll seem like it was 10 minutes, but it was a long project to do. So I'm looking forward to filling in that garden bed, and I can't wait to see it all filled in. It should look really nice, and it means extra room to grow plants and flowers, so I'm happy girl. Thank you so much for joining today. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing, and I hope you have a lovely day.